Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving deep into a really remarkable set of sources. We're looking at an event that, well, it's shaped history and belief for millennia. Specifically, we've got excerpts here from Rhapsody of Realities by Pastor Chris 16th July. It offers a pretty unique perspective on the crucifixion. So our mission for this deep dive, we want to explore the extraordinary details, the supernatural occurrences that this source describes surrounding what it calls the remarkable death of Jesus. We'll pull out the key insights, focusing on why this account portrays the event as so, unique and significant. Get ready for some, I think, surprising facts and maybe some profound interpretations you might not have encountered before. This work gets really interesting. So the material we're looking at, it starts by setting the scene. Reminds us Jesus was falsely accused, arrested, and crucified. And it highlights how even, while he was hanging there was just widespread mockery. It mentions the chief priests, scribes, and elders.
Yeah, that's right out of Matthew's account. They were challenging him. He saved others. Himself he cannot save.
Exactly. And maybe even more starkly, the source points out that even the two thieves crucified alongside him joined in the mockery.
Mm-hmm. Matthew and Mark both mentioned that. It paints this picture of just complete isolation, doesn't it? Utter rejection.
It really does. But then, right in the middle of all this human cruelty, the account shifts. Something truly out of the ordinary happens. It says that from the 6th hour, which is noon, to the 9th hour, 3 p.m., darkness covered the whole earth.
And what's really fascinating here is how this particular source emphasizes the nature of that darkness. It's not presented as, just some passing storm clouds or an eclipse. It's explicitly called supernatural darkness.
Supernatural.
Yeah, and it lasted for 3 hours. The source really wants us to see this as something significant, something beyond the natural realm.
A deliberate sign, perhaps?
That seems to be the interpretation, yeah. A deliberate, non-natural event pointing to something profound happening.
Okay, so amidst this deep darkness, around the 9th hour, 3 p.m., the text records Jesus crying out, a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. And then it gives the translation, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? That's such a raw moment.
Incredibly raw. And if we connect this to the bigger picture the source is presenting, it interprets this exact moment as when the sins of the whole world were laid upon Jesus. The explanation given is that the Father, described as being too holy to behold sin, citing Habakkuk, had to turn his back at that moment.
Turned his back because of the sin he was bearing.
That's the interpretation, yes. The source emphasizes the profound anguish wasn't just physical pain, but this spiritual separation. It says Jesus had never been separated from the Father, so this experience was utterly agonizing for him.
And this separation, according to the source, this is what Jesus meant by the cup he prayed about in Gethsemane. When he said, oh, my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me.
Precisely. The source argues very clearly on this point. It asks, what was this cup? And it concludes it was not death he dreaded, but separation from the Father.
So not the physical act of dying, but the spiritual reality of becoming sin for us.
Exactly. The separation was the direct result, the source claims, of him becoming sin for humanity. It even brings in 2 Corinthians 5.21 to back this up.
Right. For he hath made him to be sin for us, who knew no sin,
that we might be made the righteousness of God in him. So this view really frames the core agony as that spiritual separation necessitated by God's holiness and Jesus taking on sin. It's a profound theological point they're making.
Okay. Following that cry of anguish, the source highlights another really powerful moment. Jesus, again, with a loud voice, says, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. That's from Luke.
Yes, and the emphasis here in this material is crucial. It states Jesus commanded his own death. It's not presented as him simply expiring or succumbing. It's framed as an active, conscious, deliberate act of will. He's handing over his spirit.
Deliberate. That's interesting. Not passive surrender.
Not at all. And this interpretation lines up perfectly, the source notes, with what Jesus himself said earlier, quoting from John 10.
The part about laying down his life.
Exactly. Therefore doth my Father love me, because I lay down my life, that I might take it again. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it again. So this underscores the idea that he had authority over his own life and death. It wasn't just something that happened to him. It was something he did deliberately.
Wow. Okay, so he yields his spirit, and then immediately, the source says, another significant supernatural event occurs. The veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. Can you maybe give us a bit of context on that veil?
Sure. This wasn't just any curtain. The temple veil in Jerusalem was huge, reportedly very thick, and it separated the holy place from the most holy place. The most holy place was where God's presence was believed to dwell most intensely. Access was extremely restricted. Only the high priest, only once a year.
So a massive barrier, both physically and symbolically.
Absolutely. And the source's interpretation of it tearing right at that moment is really key. It states it was signifying the removal of the barrier between God and humanity, granting us access to the Father's presence.
So the tearing wasn't just random destruction.
Not according to this interpretation. It was a profound symbolic act, a direct consequence of his death, showing that the way to God was now open, from top to bottom, signifying it was God's doing.
That's a powerful image. Access granted.
A physical sign of a new spiritual reality.
And then, as if the darkness, the cry, the command, the veil tearing weren't enough, the source brings in a human witness. A Roman centurion.
Yes, the officer in charge of the crucifixion detail. Probably seen a lot of death, right?
You'd assume so. A hardened soldier.
And this centurion, the text says, upon witnessing how Jesus died, which includes all these extraordinary things we've just discussed, he declares, truly, this man was the Son of God. That's from Mark's account.
Coming from a Roman soldier, not a follower. That's quite a statement.
It really is. Within this source's framework, this external testimony is presented as powerful validation. Someone right there, an outsider, recognizes the divine nature of what just happened.
It adds that human reaction element to all the supernatural claims.
Exactly. It sort of anchors the divine events in human observation, making the source's case even stronger.
So if we pull all these threads together now, the darkness, the cry, the deliberate death, the veil, the centurion, what's the ultimate conclusion from this source?
The conclusion is quite direct. The manner of his death testified of his divinity.
So all these unusual events weren't just like random phenomena?
No, according to this text, they were integral to demonstrating who he was. It argues this was no ordinary death.
It was, as the source puts it, the ultimate sacrifice that brought salvation to all mankind. It wraps all those details into that purpose.
Precisely. Each element contributes to this picture of a unique, divinely orchestrated event with universal significance.
So reflecting on this deep dive, what does this all mean for you, the listener, who's curious about these accounts? We've seen how this particular source meticulously lays out a series of events it frames as both supernatural and deeply intentional.
Yeah, we've touched on that intense, deliberate darkness, the meaning behind that cry of separation, the idea of him consciously commanding his own spirit's departure, the symbolic power of the torn veil, and even that striking declaration from the Roman centurion.
Yeah.
Each detail in this account really serves to highlight what it presents as the unique divine nature of Jesus' death.
As you think about these specific points from the source, maybe the darkness or the veil, is there one particular detail that stands out most vividly to you?
And maybe consider this as you go forward. How does this concept presented in the source of a consciously chosen deliberate death, an act of authority rather than just victimhood, how might that relame your own understanding of sacrifice or of this event itself? It's certainly something that invites further reflection.
For more information on how you can grow spiritually using Rhapsody of Realities, please visit our website, www.rhapsodyofrealities.org, or you can also visit rin.rhapsodyofrealities.org/salvation. Thank you.